This is a Monty moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano. Well, folks, we finally made it. We made it through the regular season. We made it through the conference championship games, and we made it through the final college football playoff rankings of the year. And this was definitely a year that was, well, first off, it went by so quick, but doesn't every college football season go by so quick? And that's what this one did. But this was a year that felt different because we had weeks where we were looking at possibly 8 teams for the 4 slots. And as the weeks have gone on, it was starting to get whittled down. And as the season was going on, it was becoming more and more apparent that the likes of like Alabama and Clemson were not going to be in the college football playoff. And we came down to the final week of the year. When we looked at it, it was down to really 5 teams for 4 spots. Ohio State, who lost to Michigan to finish the season, the big question mark was going to be, could there be a way they could get back in? Well, they needed some help, and they sure did get some help, as USC lost for the second time this season to Utah, this time in the Pac-12 game, a championship game, and then TCU losing to Kansas State in a Big 12 championship game that had it all. It really was an incredible thing. And so with the USC loss, that definitely helped Ohio State get in. So that was really no question. So the only question mark we had going into last Sunday afternoon, was, did the loss that TCU suffered in the Big 12 championship game, was that worth them being knocked down and Alabama getting back in? And the answer is no. And the competition committee, the playoff committee, got this totally right, and they got the order right too. So the final college football playoff rankings are Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2, TCU 3, and Ohio State 4. And really, folks, it boils down to this for me, and I posted this on my social media account on Twitter at Montalbano NY. To me, TCU in the Big 12 championship game, they played better in their one loss than Alabama did in any of their wins this year. And that's, to me, what ultimately came down. Alabama was a 2-loss team that did not even play in the conference championship game. It was also just the way that Alabama had played in their games this year. I mean, I know Bryce Young, who right now looks like he could be the first quarterback, the first overall pick, the first quarterback taken in next year's NFL draft. I know they have a stud defensive player, but you just looked at Alabama this year, and this was not a normal Nick Saban team this year. And again, TCU to me played so much better than Alabama, just even in their Big 12 championship game loss. And you saw Max Duggan really just show you that one drive that he gave it his all, really to me was solidified TCU being in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, the committee got it right, and we look at it right now, and we're all set for our 2 New Year's Eve semifinal playoff games, where Michigan and TCU will face off in the Fiesta Bowl at 4 p.m. Eastern, and Georgia and Ohio State will play in the Peach Bowl at 8 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Eve, and then we'll be all set on Monday, January the 9th, for our national championship game. So at the end of the day, to me, the committee got the 4 teams right. And it is kind of weird when you look at it. I think TCU this year could be like this year's Cincinnati. When you look at Cincinnati last season, I think TCU is going to have a little bit of a better chance against Michigan than Cincinnati did against Alabama. But Cincinnati played Alabama tough, so you never know. And that's going to be an interesting semifinal, because Blake Corum, the stud running back from Michigan, not going to be in that game. We'll preview those games as the championship game, as those 2 semifinals gets closer in a future Monty moment. But at the end of the day, the drama was not there, as the committee got the final 4 right. And when you look at it now, I mean, this is going to be the second to last year where we have just 4 teams in the college football playoff. One of the big stories from the past week was that the members of the College Football Playoff Board of Managers agreed to begin the newly expanded 12-team college football playoff during the 2024-2025 season. And, to me, this was inevitable that this was going to be happening. We've been talking about expansion for years now. We originally started with the BCS, which, let's be honest, was really just BS. And then we got to this 14 playoff, which I think right now, the way you look at it, I think it's the best format out there. I mean, I knew that expansion was inevitable. I was not against going to 8. I think 12 might be a little bit much. I think we're going to have to wait and see. They're still going to right now, I mean, the way that they talk about this, when you look at what they're discussing, this is what's being put out there. First round of the playoff in 2024 will take place the week ending of Saturday, December 21st, at either the home field of the higher seeded team or at another site designated by the higher seeded institution. So as you look at it, it would be 12 against 5, 11 at 6, 10 at 7, and 9 versus 8. They're going to announce specific game dates in the future. So what this means is, for the 2024 and 2025 seasons, the 4 quarterfinal games and the 2 playoff semifinal games will be played in bowls on a rotating basis. 2024 quarterfinals will take place at the Fiesta Bowl, Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl, while the Cotton Bowl and Orange Bowl will host the playoff semifinals, and then the 2025 quarterfinals will take place in the Cotton Bowl, Orange, Rose, and Sugar Bowl, while the Fiesta and Peach Bowl will host the playoff semifinals. And again, there's going to be future dates to all this. The national championship games, not really much difference. They'll be played on January 20th, 2025 in Atlanta, and January 19th in 2026 in Miami. So about 10 days to 2 weeks later than normal. And we know the college football playoff, they want to get this, they want to get the championship game. They don't want to match up against the NFL, so that's why they do it, and that's why they put the championship game on a Monday, which for years I've not been a fan of. I like the fact that they at least did push the start time up for this one this year to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, as the championship will be on January the 9th. So, I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, I understand, look, you play Saturdays every week throughout the season, but I get if there's an NFL game going on, whether it's a regular season game, maybe the final week, or a NFL playoff game, you don't want to go up against that. I totally understand, but still, put them just like the NCAA basketball, to put it on a Monday to me just doesn't make much sense. But nevertheless, when you look at it again, we're going to a playoff starting on New Year's Eve. That they got it right. It should be very, very interesting. You know, Georgia's defense going against the Ohio State offense. Now, Ohio State's going to be without one of their receivers in that one. It should be a fascinating one to see which will prevail in that one. And then the Michigan TCU game, you know, just real quick discussing that one. Again, Michigan's not going to have their star running back Blake Corum, and TCU has been playing pretty much college football playoff-like football for weeks now. So it should be fascinating to see what those two teams will do. And again, we'll talk about this a lot more on a future Monty moment. So that's the big thing there. Obviously, also the what we just discussed with the 12-team playoff. And the other big story in college football as we get ready for bowl season, all these players entering the transfer portal. I mean, it is unbelievable. I mean, I could spend the next 2 hours. I know you don't want to hear that, but just talking about all these players that are entering the transfer portal, it's absolutely crazy. You know, some of the big names, you know, Cade McNamara from Michigan transferring. I know my quarterback from my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Drew Pine, is also transferring, and DJ Uiagalelei down there at Clemson. And I think that was not really much of a surprise when you saw how they were ready bringing in Cade Klubnik there at Clemson. So not really a surprise. But, you know, the transfer portal, you know what? It's changed college sports entirely, and especially with football and basketball. I mean, it is unbelievable. I mean, these guys leave institutions like it's nothing. JT Daniels from West Virginia, I think, is entering the transfer portal for the third or fourth time in his collegiate career, which is just absolutely unheard of. So that's what's going on there. You know, normally we'd be talking about picks going into this weekend, but when you get ready for this weekend, really the big game in college football on Saturday is one of my favorite games that I look forward to in all of sports every year, and that's Army-Navy. The interesting thing with this one this year, both teams entering at under 500, but really, I mean, it's just really more of a game that you watch and you see all of our military people in the stands and our military folks that are proudly serving our country. You know, this is the day for them to, you know, celebrate the game of football. I love seeing them jump up and down, and, you know, for 3 hours, that's the least they could do. So we'll look forward to that. In terms of the bowl games themselves, I mean, you guys know that I'm a Notre Dame fan. I'm very excited that we're taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks. As somebody who lives now down here in South Carolina, I probably am going to be the only Notre Dame fan that's going to go to the bar and watch the game this year. But you know what? I'll be outnumbered, but that's just, you know, that's life. And it'll be a cool matchup, you know what, as you look at Marcus Freeman after his first year with Notre Dame, you know, who's had to make a change there. You know, it's been a transitional year for the Fighting Irish, going up against a Gamecock team in the Gator Bowl that, you know, is riding high right now. You know, 2 impressive wins to finish the season against Tennessee at home and then at Clemson. Should be fascinating. But we will definitely talk about some bowl games as we get closer. Right now, our next Monty moment in terms of college football that we're planning is going to be right before New Year's Eve. So the best thing to do is to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETBnetwork. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, ring it, so you know when all of our content out. Of course, if there's any breaking news in college football or anything in the world, we will definitely put out one coming up. But you know what? We're coming down to the stretch here. Looking forward to the 2 semifinal games. Looking forward to all the bowl games. Some very, very intriguing ones. And again, a college football playoff without Clemson and without Alabama. You know what? It's going to be different, but nevertheless should be very, very exciting with the 4 teams that we have right now. For more, like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameOnETB. You could follow me on Twitter at MontalbanoNY. And like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETBnetwork. This has been a Monty Moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano.